Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Time to unveil my color coding. What does it mean? You probably noticed it in my last video yesterday about the roster. So let's go into a little more detail on what I meant to represent there. So when it comes to the Seahawks right now, I am thinking about 2022, but I'm also kind of not because I'm not expecting great things from this team. It's just, it's not reasonable to expect this team to be anything special in 2022. We've got big, big question marks. Maybe you don't even call them question marks at quarterback. We've got two rookie tackles starting. We've got a defensive line that is kind of just, other than maybe Shelby Harris and Al Woods kind of duct taped together, just hoping it holds up. You've got a decent collection, a couple, well, I would say at least a couple of guys on defense who are probably developmental with Mafe and Woolen. It's just not, in my mind, it's not likely that you're looking at this team for great results in 2022. I just don't see it. I know some people do, but when I think about this team and what really matters to me right now is what are they going to do in 2023? That's when this has an opportunity to actually produce great results. When I say great results, I don't mean a playoff berth. I don't mean winning one playoff game. I mean actually starting to compete for titles again, which is something that we had really gotten away from over the last 7 years. It had been, the first 3 years, obviously, you were constantly right up there with the best teams in the league. And then the last 7 years, you get away from it. So that's where I'm aiming for right now. I'm not trying to get back to where we were the last 7 years because that, like that's good for a little while maybe, but you got to aim higher at some point. When you sit at that level for a while, you got to start wondering, okay, when are we going to take the next step? And we are going to have to take a step down in order to take those 2 steps up to actually get to the point where we're competing for a Super Bowl again. So I'm thinking about what are the long-term needs for this team going into next offseason as well, because we did a really good job this offseason with our draft of addressing, I would say, more than half of our imminent roster needs. But what about the other ones? What are the other areas we need to address next offseason to build a team that has a shot in 2023? Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the DEFCON system, but the higher numbers are actually better. DEFCON 5 is everything's cool, everything's chill, don't worry about it. DEFCON 3 is okay, we need to pay attention to this, we've got a little bit of a concern here. We need to pay attention here. And then DEFCON 1 is it's too late to panic. Just put your head between your legs and kiss your butt goodbye. So that's kind of what I've done here. When it comes to addressing the different positions on this team on the long term, where are we at on the DEFCON scale? DEFCON 5 is blue. Okay? And we're going to start with those. DEFCON 5 is everything's cool. No concerns as of right now. From where we sit at the moment, there's no reason to believe we're going to need to do anything to have this position going well into 2023 and probably beyond. There's enough on the team right now, or it'll be so trivial to address it, it doesn't matter. So let's start with the DEFCON 5s. I have fullback for very obvious reasons. We use a fullback a couple times a game at most, or should be. Wide receiver, we've got a ton of different stuff at wide receiver, right? You've got young guys coming into their prime, like Metcalf. You've got aging veterans with stuff in the tank left, like Lockett. You've got young guys with potential, like Eskridge, Melton, Derek. You've got lottery tickets like Fuller and Cade Johnson. You've got so many different exciting guys at the wide receiver core that I'm not worried about that at all. Especially because Metcalf's probably about to get extended. Lockett already got extended. Eskridge is still on his rookie deal. Melton's just starting his rookie deal. So is Derek. Like, there's nothing to worry about there for me right now. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Tight end is also DEFCON 5. You've got three guys who are, well, not Disley, but they're all on contracts that are guaranteed to keep them here for at least another 2 years. Fant, you locked yourself into for another 2 years. Disley, you're locked into for 2 years. Parkinson has 2 years left on his rookie deal. Now, it's possible after 2023, but we can deal with that after the 2023 season. You don't have to worry about that right now. Fant is young. If Fant does good for you, you can re-sign him and you'll have a really good number one tight end. If he doesn't do well for you, then you can worry about getting another tight end in here after 2023. So right now we're at DEFCON 5 on tight end, I think. Tackle, both tackle spots are DEFCON 5. Cross and Lucas are going to start their rookie contracts this year. They're both guys you would expect to be long-term starters. And you've got young, cheap, intriguing depth behind both spots with Forsyth and Curhan. So both of them are DEFCON 5. I'm also a DEFCON 5 on outside linebacker or edge rusher. Not because I would completely hate the idea of adding another blue chipper if the opportunity presented itself to us, because you can always use more pass rushers. However, in terms of needing stuff, I think we're good. You've got Taylor, you've got Mafe. Both those guys still have years left on their rookie deal. So does Alton. Tyreek, obviously, as well. And Nwosu on a 2-year deal. Now, he may not last more than a year, but that's going to kind of be up to you. You can keep him if he does well. You can not keep him if you don't see a lot good from him. But even if you get rid of him, Taylor and Mafe being your starters is pretty solid. Hopefully Alton can do it. Tyreek Smith should provide quality depth. Maybe once you get into like 2024 and beyond, you can start adding some depth. But honestly, with the information we have access to right now, with the way we're looking at this team at the moment, Mafe and Taylor should be your long-term starters until they become too expensive or they prove they're not the guy. But as of right now, that's how I'm looking at it. Until they give me reason to believe that's not the case, I'm going to believe it. I also have DEFCON 5 at safety, both safety spots, just because there's so much money invested here that we can't really do anything else. We can add a little bit of depth, but nothing significant, right? And we already kind of have the depth stuff locked up. We have guys who play corner who can play safety. Blair is still here, 1-year deal, but you've got a lot of UDFA and young, cheap guys that are intriguing backups. Like, you can't do much more at safety. So, as you can see, there are a bunch of different ways that you can get to DEFCON 5 at a position, right? In the case of tight end, it's because we have 3 guys on good deals for the next 2 years and they can't go anywhere. At tackle, it's because we just spent big draft picks on both spots. But at safety, it's because you've spent so much money there, you're stuck, right? Also at DEFCON 5 on punter, Dixon, and long snapper, Ott, for pretty obvious reasons. So these are positions that I don't see any need as of right now to address next year to make the team ready to go in 2023, which again is my goal. So those positions I'm completely chill on until maybe the season starts and we see something from some of these guys that is just so bad we're just like, we're going to have to pull the plug on this now, aren't we? But from where we sit right now, I think those positions are taken care of, or you maybe need to do a little bit of work for depth, but it's not going to be particularly hard to do. Pick up a UDFA that you like and run with it. Okay, next up is DEFCON 4. This is kind of where you have to be a little bit aware of some danger. You have to be aware of the possibility that you might need to spend some assets here, but it's not a huge deal, and there's also a pretty good chance everything's cool. First DEFCON 4 position for me would be running back. Kenneth Walker III kind of alleviates a lot of the stress on this position by himself, right? He's going to be on a rookie deal for the next 4 years. He's young, doesn't have a ton of miles on him. He's a great all-around running back. He does pretty much everything you could want a running back to do except maybe pass block. And that alone makes life pretty good at running back. But Penny, I like Penny. I think having him around is definitely an asset. But he is on a 1-year deal. May not be here in 2023. Travis Homer, last year of his deal, might not be here past 2022 as well. Now DJ's got 1 more year on the rookie, or 2 more years left on his rookie deal, I think. But there's no guarantee he sees the end of that deal. And it's not like DJ Dallas has done anything to really get anyone's attention, right? So you may need to use a draft pick next year. Like, I'm not going crazy with it. You might use like a 5th or 6th round pick on a guy that you like. Even if Josh Johnson ends up being something at the NFL level, which I think is totally possible. I like Josh Johnson. That might be okay, but you still might need a little bit more. All right, we are also at DEFCON 4 at right guard. Couple different reasons. One, I still believe that Damian Lewis is a long-term solution at right guard. If we could just put him there and leave him there, I think Damian Lewis can do right guard at a high level. I think he's, at the very least, a top 10 right guard in the league, or will be, and he has upside to be even a little better than that, possibly. That is kind of all we have, because Gabe Jackson, even if he is here this year, he's not going to be here for long, probably. I think 2022 will be his last year as a Seahawk, if he's here at all. But the thing is, right guards are not that hard to find. There are right guards all over the place in the NFL. So we can find one. It's not that big of a deal, and the guy we're going to have to find only needs to be depth. He doesn't need to be a starter, because as far as I'm concerned, Damian Lewis has proven that he can be an upper-level starter. So yeah, I would put that at DEFCON 4. We're going to need some depth there, but honestly, maybe Lilstyx ends up being the right guard depth very easily. So we might not need to do anything, but I would be aware of the possibility of needing to use like a 5th round pick on a right guard. And the other position I'm at DEFCON 4 on would be outside corner. This one's a little bit tricky because we got 2 rookies here who are in completely different positions, and Trey Brown's coming off a major injury. So we don't have a certifiable number 1 outside corner right now. Sidney to me is a number 2. I think if Kobe pans out, he'll be a number 2. Trey Brown, I don't know if I see him as like a number 1. Tariq can be, but it's going to be some years before we know. And I'm kind of torn on this one, right? This could be DEFCON 3. I went with DEFCON 4, because Carroll's usually pretty good at this. You give him like, okay, go get a guy in the 4th round or something. And he's like, okay. And then he gets a guy, and then he ends up being fine. That's one of his bright spots as a coach right now. That's one of the best things that he brings to the table. So I think that it's not a huge deal, because you did take a high upside project in Woolen. But the Woolen thing, it could be a couple years before we know. And I'm not seeing anybody I have a ton of confidence in becoming a number 1 shutdown corner here. So you might need to address this position a little bit in the offseason. I don't think it needs to be a big thing, but it's on my mind. So those are the positions I'm at DEFCON 4 on. Okay, now we're moving on to DEFCON 3. Those are the yellow ones. Basically, we need to be aware of a burgeoning issue, and we probably need to dump a decent chunk of assets into making it better next offseason. I have left guard. Phil Haynes, I like Phil Haynes a lot, and if Phil Haynes has a healthy season, then we can roll with him. But he is injury prone, period. If he gets hurt again this year at any point and misses time, you have to look at that and go, we can't depend on you. You can be our backup, you can be our depth, but you can't be our starter. And if that happens, which there's a high probability of, you've got Gilmore, who I like, but he's a lottery ticket right now. You've got Lilstyx, who the team likes, but another lottery ticket. And that's kind of it, unless you're going to put Gabe Jackson there, which I can't imagine he's going to be there long term, even if you do. So I'm going to say that you may need to secure a starting left guard in the offseason next year. It all depends on Haynes' health, and Haynes staying healthy is not the best bet you can make. So you may need to spend some capital to bring in a starter. And then the other spot would be nickel cornerback. All the guys I have listed here are going to have expiring contracts this season. Coleman, Amadi, Neal. None of them are likely to be here in 2023. The nice thing here is that Trey Brown could move over to be nickel cornerback if you end up being able to address the outside corner with other players. But I feel like you're going to need a little bit of help at the nickel corner spot one way or the other after this season. Remember, Blair's going to be a free agent too. So I'm at DEFCON 3. All right, DEFCON 2 is orange. DEFCON 2 is basically you better be ready to spend assets here. This is a real area of concern, and there's a very, very low odds that we're going to be able to take care of things via just what we have. And there are a few positions, 3 actually overall. You got center. First, I mean, Blythe, I think he's going to be good for us. There is a possibility that Blythe has a good year and we bring him back and he ends up being kind of your, not a stopgap, but like a passable, hold you over option for the future for a few years because Blythe's not that old. But Blythe, even in the best case scenario, he's not that great. He's good. He's okay. He's passable, but that's not exactly what we're going for here if we have the resources to do better. And Fuller is Fuller. I know the team likes Shepley, but I haven't seen anything there yet. He's another lottery ticket in my mind. So you probably need to bring in a new starter, and you very possibly need to bring in a new backup next year. I don't know if Shepley will have advanced to the point where he can be your backup by then, but either way, you need to get a center. Now, the good news is, center, you can find centers. I don't know about free agency, but you can find guys in the draft. And if you attack the rest of the line with enough competency, you don't need a great center because they're going to be doing a lot of combo blocks. They're going to do a lot of double team blocks. You don't need the most dominant center ever. You need a decent center who can do his job at a competent level. So it's not a huge thing, but it's a significant thing. And I hope the team's ready for it. Next position at DEFCON 2 would be defensive end. Shelby Harris is going to be good for the next 2 years, but after that, I don't see much with him. Poona Ford's on the last year of his deal, and we don't know if he can do it. Collier's Collier, and Quentin Jefferson, he's a stopgap. So we've got very little long-term options here, and the only guy that you look at and go, yeah, that guy's definitely going to be able to play at a high level for us at defensive end in a 3-4 would be Shelby. And I don't see anything on the practice squad that excites me. So you may be looking at a pretty thorough overhaul of the defensive end position next year in the offseason. You may need to bring in 2 or 3 guys. One of them may need to be like a stud too. So defensive end is something that we're going to need to overhaul, I think. Inside linebacker would be the other position I'm at DEFCON 2 on. Obviously not Jordan Brooks. He's fine, and he's cheap for another year or two. But the other spots, I'm concerned. Cody Barton as a starter is not ideal, and the backups, I don't see a whole lot there. Ben Burkervin, I think his ship has sailed. E.A. Buniwe is clearly a special teamer. Honestly, Cody Barton probably is too. Radigan, I don't see any defense starting future from him. So you're going to need somebody better than Barton across from Brooks if you're going to do this 3-4 stuff. And honestly, even if you're not, you need a will. You need a new will because Brooks is going to move to middle probably in that situation. So those are the positions I think we need to concern ourselves with significantly in 2023's offseason. But those are not quite the imminent disasters of the final 2 positions that I'm at DEFCON 1 on. Oh, by the way, kicker as well. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm at DEFCON 2. I'm only at DEFCON 2 because you don't have to spend big resources to find a kicker. Just go get a guy in UDFA you like and hope you win the roulette wheel spin with him having a good year. That's basically how kickers work now. But anyway, DEFCON 1, obviously that's just like, it's already, or it's very, very clear we need help here. And if we don't take this seriously, then there is going to be no 2023 push for a Super Bowl. Quarterback, I don't believe in Drew Lock yet. I'll give him a chance. I don't mind letting him play the year, but I don't have optimism about him being able to become a franchise-level quarterback. Gino's Gino, and I don't see anything with the low-level guys. And it's not hard. I mean, it's hard to find the quarterback. Now, next year's draft is going to be really good for him, but you still got to spend the resources to get them. You may need to put one or both of your first round picks next year into finding your quarterback. There are a lot of guys that I like. We'll talk about that more in the future. But Drew Lock is really the only hope we have here, and I don't think he's much of a hope. So DEFCON 1 there. And then the other DEFCON 1 position to me is nose tackle. Al Woods, if he makes it through this season playing at a high level, I'll be very impressed. But at his age, and with the new responsibilities of the position, I don't see him holding up for any more than just this 1 year. I think he may retire after 2022. If not, I also think there's a good chance he won't be here in 2023 because he'll be released. Monet's okay. He's got the size. He plays the part, but he's nothing special. We may need to bring in 2 new nose tackles next year. Probably need one to be a stud because that's kind of where it all starts if you're going to run this kind of defense, right? If you're going to run this 3-4 defense, you need a nose tackle that can eat up space. You need somebody who's really going to draw attention. You may need to spend a top 50 pick on a defense, on a nose tackle in the draft, or you may need to spend some serious free agency bucks finding that guy. I don't know who it'll be, but it's going to take resources. Okay, so that's about it for the statuses that I'm currently at for the long-term viability of this team at various positions. A lot of positions we're looking good at. Couple positions we have some mild concerns, but there are a few that we need to take very seriously. So over the next week plus, I'm going to do deeper dives into these positions of massive, significant, or notable need. Basically, DEFCON 3 or lower. And try to figure out how this team might address those needs and what we can do to make it so that 2022 is the only truly rebuilding year, and 2023 we can hit the ground running. I'll see you guys later on, probably on Twitch tonight. Come watch me play. And tomorrow we're going to start taking a look at the long-term future goals for this team. So if that sounds like something that interests you, come check it out. I know we still got a 2022 season to play out, but the goal is to win Super Bowls at the end of the day. And what we do next offseason in tandem with what we did this offseason, that's going to determine whether or not we can get back to that point. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you disagree with any of my DEFCON designations. And I will see you all later.